Okay. Yeah, so we'll try to discuss some common threats and the attacks that happens on the individual workstations or the networks. So what are the different types of common threats will be used that we discuss in today's lecture. So in common threats, the basically we are going to talk about the topic called what are the different malwares are there and how they will affect the system or the network devices. And there are some common network attacks like the reconnaissance attacks, means gathering the information of the workstations and the network, and how they get that access control access control attack, and doing some social engineering how to crack the passwords, and how different tools used for cracking the passwords that we'll try to discuss. Then in network attacks, it is especially the denial of service attack or the buffer overflow attack that we'll discuss. So in denial of service attack means it is one of the most dangerous attack in the network, that any illegal or non-legitimate node, they try to spread the network, try to send the packets which are unnecessary, and because of those, a huge amount of packets inject into your network will affect the network performance, and that gives the network congestion. So let us see the first one. What are the malwares in your idea? Can you name any malwares? What do you mean by the malware attack?
Something like injecting a virus or Trojan.
Correct. Yeah. So this malware is just a type of your software. This software will be, the line of malware code will be added into any executable softwares. So the end users, they don't notice that that executable code is having some kind of malware. So any end devices, especially these malwares affect the end devices actually. So this, the end devices are especially the prone to the malware attack. So the focus of this topic is on a threat to end devices actually. So malware is the short for the malicious software or malicious code. So it is a code or the software that is specially designed to damage or disrupt or steal or inflict some other the bad or illegitimate action on data or host or your networks. So it is important to know about the malware because the threat actors and your online criminals frequently try to trick users into the installing the malware to help exploit security gaps actually. So in addition to this, the malware which is going to be exploiting some kind of vulnerabilities or security gaps on your system, the malware the morphs so rapidly that malware-related security incidents are extremely common because the anti-malware software cannot be updated quickly enough to stop the new threats. So these are the basic problem or the attack of your malware on the end devices. So there are types of your malwares. If you see, there are different types of malwares which usually comes into the mind. That one is virus, your worm, and your Trojan horse. So what virus is do, and how worm is different from your virus. So these are all comes under the category of your the malware. So this virus is a type of your malware that spreads by inserting a copy of itself into another program. So after the program is run, then the virus then spread from one computer to another computer, or infecting the other computers too. So the most virus requires the human help to spread actually. So, for example, when someone connects to an interface like your USB or CD or uh, any other compact disk to their PC, then the virus will enter into their, the personal computers. So the virus may then infect a new USB drive and spread it to a new, the personal computer. So these viruses can lay the dormant for an extended period and then activate at a specific time and the date. So the simple virus may be the installed on one on itself at the first line code in the executable file. So these viruses can be the harmless, but for those that display pictures on the screen, it is not harmless, but they can be disruptive, and they can also modify or delete files on your hard drives. So these most viruses are now spread by your USB memory drives or CD or DVD or network sharing or email. So these are the primary platform for these viruses to affect one computer, and that computer will affect another computer in the network. And the second type of your the worm malware we call the Trojan horse. So the term Trojan horse originated from this Greek methodology actually, but the Trojan horse malware is also the software like your virus, so that appears to be legitimate, but it contains the malicious code which exploits the privileges of the user that run it, as an administrator. So often these Trojans are found attached to the online games actually. So these users are commonly tricked into loading and executing the Trojan horse on their systems. So while playing the game, the user will not notice a problem, but in the background, the Trojan horse has been installed on the user's system. So the malicious code from the Trojan horse continue operating even after the game has been closed. So this Trojan horse concept is flexible, so it can cause the immediate damage and provide the remote access to the system of the end devices for the attackers. So or they can access through the backdoor. So it can also perform the actions as the instructed remotely, such as send me the password file once per week, or this tendency of malware to send data back to the cyber criminals, that highlights the need to monitor the outbound traffic for attack indicators. So the custom written Trojan horses, such as those with the specific target, are difficult to detect in these the executable program key, or in the background it is going to run. So there are the Trojan horse classification can be done in a different manner. So Trojan horse are usually classified according to the damage that they cause, or the manner in which they breach a system. So we try to list out some of the Trojan horse type, that is based on how much damage that the this Trojan horse malware disrupt or damage the data. So first one is your remote access type of your Trojan horse, which enables unauthorized remote access. And second one is your data sending, as we said, that provides the threat actor with sensitive data like username and passwords. And the destructive type of Trojan horse that corrupts or delete the files on our hard drive on the the program, the personal computers. And another Trojan horse type of your malware is your proxy type. So the users victims this computer as the source device to launch attacks and perform the other illegal activities like changing the usernames, changing the configuration files on the system, in the system file of the operating system. And another type of Trojan horse is your FTP, that file transfer protocol. So this protocol basically we use to upload or download huge amount of data from the server. So if the attacker gets this service by using this Trojan horse malware, that enables unauthorized file transfer service on the end devices. So the end devices generally they are with the limited storage. So if the huge amount of unwanted data or garbage data is suppose uploaded onto the end device, then your device become hacked. So in that is one kind of attack, and another one is your security software the disabler. So this stops the antivirus programs. If third-party antivirus programs, if you are running on your system, they try to stop that antivirus program and allowing they will try to attack on the security of your system. And another one is based on the damage that this Trojan horse creates. Another type of your Trojan horse is your denial of service. So this denial of service, as said, the unwanted packets or network traffic will be there because of this denial of service. So as the traffic increase in the network become congested. So for legitimate users to transmit any data from one device to another device, they cannot able to transfer that. Or if it is a client server concept, suppose the attackers they use these trojans to get the accessibility to the server, and they make the server busy to provide service to the attacker only, not for the legitimate user. If legitimate user tries to connect with the server denies that I'm busy with other activity or other service. So another one is the keylogger type of your attack. So this keylogger actively the attempt to steal confidential information such as your the login informations or the credit card numbers by recording the keystrokes entered on your web pages. So this is the second type of your attack, which is somewhat dangerous than your virus. And a third type of attack is your worms, we used to say. So what this, the worms used to do, the computer worms are, similar to your virus because they replicate and can cause the same type of damage like your virus. But specifically, these worms replicate themselves by independently exploiting the vulnerabilities in the network part. So these worms can slow down your network performance by just making the network devices so busy so that they cannot provide service to the end devices in the network. So again, it is a type of your congestion, network congestion type. So whereas this, the worms are responsible for some of the most, the devastating attack on the internet. So up to the record of your, year 2001, the Code Red worm had initially infected 658 servers. So when these servers become, the infected, these servers are not providing any service to the end devices or clients. So it is kind of your denial of service kind of attack done by these worms. So within 19 hours that, the Code Red worm was identified and the worm had infected around, 300 or 300,000 servers in the entire World Wide Web network. So this is the worm. So these are three different types of what you call the malwares in this case. But these worms are basically attacking the servers, means servers are having the database, right? So in that database, they try to attack the SQL servers. So in that database, that SQL servers, maintains the entire credentials of all the users, those who are there in the network. So this SQL slammer was a denial of service attack that exploits a buffer overflow bug in the Microsoft SQL server. So the main intention of this code red worm is to make all the servers and their database busy with the attacker only, so the legitimate users cannot connect to these servers because the server is busy. So it says that your username and passwords are not correct, or sometimes your server is not reachable. It gives when server is not reachable, that means you cannot connect to your server and you cannot do the operation, or you cannot use the services provided by your server. So these so there are different types. The component of your server that enables the vulnerability, this worm component, and that will propagate. The propagation will be done in some mechanisms and payloads. So these are basic components of your the worm. So what happens inside this? The first one, it is enabling the vulnerability, means the worm did install itself on the server by using the exploit mechanism. So by using exploit mechanism means it used the attacker's tools. That means getting access to your server by using some attacking tools, such as how you are going to attack. First, they try to gather the information, what are the ports are open on the server. If the FTP port or your SSL ports or your SSH ports are suppose open, then your the attackers use this worm component. They find that vulnerability and try to get access of your server and install these worm on the server, so that will help the attackers to get into the SQL database. So such vulnerability or this exploit mechanism, such as your email attachments or your executable file or your Trojan horse on a vulnerable system. So after that, the propagation mechanism starts. So after gaining access of your either the FTP or whether it is a telnet, whether it is your SSH, so it gives the remote access. So by gaining this access to these servers, the worm replicates itself and locate a new target. From that server, try to target another one. So then to target the other one, it requires to generate a new payload. So for this payload, again these attackers tools will be used like Metasploit. So that Metasploit is used to generate this payload, and assumes that the other users thinks that this payload came from the legitimate user only. So any malicious code that results in some action in a payload. So the most often this code is used to create the backdoor entry. So the backdoor entry means once they gain the access to the device, from next time onwards, they become the legitimate user to access that server. So from this component, if you see, the first one is you are having the propagate for 19 days in the previous case which we have observed. So these worms never really stop spreading on the internet. So after they are released, then the worms continue to propagate until all possible sources of your infection are properly patched within the network. So these worms are, as said, the self-contained programs. So that attack a system to exploit the non-vulnerability first. Then in the network, if there are multiple users, if they are connected, multiple stations, if they are connected in a distributed manner or complete manner, they first infect one system. From that infect, they become that system as your base, and from there try to infect all other systems in the network. So upon the success of the exploitation of this, the worms copies itself on every system in the network. So when all the systems are infected, all the systems, from the network, they become down. So they will not available. They will not try to provide the service to any other systems. So how they are become down means by injecting the packets, unwanted packets in the network, your network become congested. When congested, if any legitimate user is there, suppose trying to access the server is busy to provide service to other systems which are already connected. So here it gives the denial of service attack. Right? So one type of this attack is the ransomware attack. We say so. In this ransomware is the malware that denies the access to the infected computer system. So the threat actors have used these virus, worms, and Trojan horses to carry their payload and for other malicious reasons. But however, the malware continues to evolve. So currently, the most dominating malware is the ransomware in the network. So this ransomware is always denies the access to the infected system, computer system, as said. So there are dozens of ransomware viruses. So this ransomware frequently uses a encryption algorithm basically to encrypt the system files and data. So the legitimate user of that, the system cannot open that file. So by encrypting the system files and data, the majority of non-ransomware encryption algorithms that cannot be easily decrypted, so leaving victims with little option but to pay the asking price. So email and malicious the advertising, also known as the malvertising, are vectors of the ransomware companies. So the social engineering is also used as when cyber criminals who identify themselves as security technicians call homes and they can the users to connect to the website that downloads the ransomware to the user's computer. So this is one of the the famous malware which is introduced in the probably in late 2001 or 2002 in that time. So there are some other type of malwares are also there. One is the scareware, phishing, toolkits, spyware, and the adware malware. So they are similar to a ransomware, but ransomware damaged the network a lot. So the common malware behavior in the network is the cyber criminals. They continually modify malware code to change how it spreads and infect the computers in the network. So most produce the similar symptoms that can be detected through network and device log monitoring system. So computers infected with malware often exhibits some of the symptoms like the appearance of your strain files, programs on your desktops that you haven't used that or you haven't downloaded any file, but on your desktop you can see that new files are appearing. That is one symptom. Or antivirus and your firewall programs are tuning off or reconfiguring their settings. Or computer screen is freezing, or system is crashing. Emails are spontaneously being sent without your knowledge to your contact list. Some files have been modified or deleted, or increase the CPU and our memory uses, or slow down your computer or web browser speeds. So our unknown TCP or UDP ports are open. So these are some common behavior of your malware. The common malware behavior on your system. So this malware behavior is not limited to this list, but by these are few symptoms that that give some sense to the uh, the users of your legitimate users of your device that your system is affected with the malware. So in this, let us see there are some common network attacks which are the most affected by these malwares like virus, worms, Trojan horse, or anything is the type of your network attacks. So one is your the reconnaissance, your access, and your social engineering. So this type of attacks, what happens in this, the reconnaissance attack and your access attack and denial of service attacks. So uh, to mitigate the attacks in the network, it is useful to first categorize the various types of your attacks. By categorizing your network attack, it is possible to address type of attacks rather than the individual attacks. So although there is no standardized way of categorizing the network attacks, but the method used for our course, we try to include them into three different categories of your network attacks. One is reconnaissance attack, access attack, and denial of service attack. So in reconnaissance attack, if you see how the device is identified in the network, how the device is identifying in the network. Hmm? Network device. No, no, no. If I have a small network, suppose having switch, some PC1, PC2, and suppose PC3. So this is a small network, suppose. Then how the devices will be identified? IP addresses. Okay. So that is one thing. IP address. Another MAC address. Any others? Okay. So these are the addresses used. Along with the addresses, for any the attackers, what extra information is required? So every device they are connected with the interfaces, right? So that is your NIC is used, network interface card is used. When network interface card is there, so there you are going to finding which port is enabled at this interface card. So it requires another one is your port numbers. Port numbers. Right. And another one is this particular device, suppose PC1, where it is, how it is going to be located. It is located with the help of your, the DNS which is using on this. So in this reconnaissance attack, basically it is gathering the information of your target. So this reconnaissance is information gathering, and it is analogous to a thief surveying a neighborhood by going door to door and pretending to a small thing. So the threat actors use this reconnaissance in the network to gather the information, or sometimes we call the recon attack, to unauthorized discovery and mapping of system services or vulnerabilities. So this recon attacks that precedes the access attack or your denial of your service attacks. So let us see what kind of information this reconnaissance attack will do. So the technique which is used to gather the information of your target by the reconnaissance attack is it perform an information query of your target. So in terms of our network, they try to use the very famous tool called Whois. So in Whois, the first they try to gather the information of your IP address. If you use the IP address, if your IP address is known to them, then it is easy for the attackers to find out the what is the complete details of your that by using this whois.com to yeah. Uh, can you open this whois.com on your browser? Okay. Right. Now assume that our target is utsa.edu. So in the search field, you can give this utsa.edu and click. So what you are finding over there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on top, you will find domains is there, right? But once you simply enter utsa.com, I mean the utsa.edu, suppose, you will find different information over there. So we're having utsa.space, utsa.blg. Are you able to find on your screen? Right? So this information, any of the attackers, they can use this information. Like they can create a mail ID in such a way that, like Raj at utsa.space. Or here, if you go on, you can see that the utsa.com or utsa websites and those things. So if you receive any mail with this extension, suppose you feel that, yeah, it is coming from UTSA only. And when you try to open that mail, in that mail, you may have your virus or you may have the malware, virus, Trojan, or anything. So at the, let me just check it out one more. You are having one more tool here which we are using the Google search. The Google search is also used by the attackers to get complete information of this. So if you click on this, who is this? Now here you type on right side, I mean on top of your browser, when you're opening this whois.com, you're finding whois, the last but one tab. Are you getting? Hello? On the whois.com, on the right side, you're finding this whois. Share. Okay. So in this, the whois.com, you're finding right side here, whois is there. If you click on this whois, it will ask you enter the domain name or IP address, right? So now let me enter the domain name, that utsa.edu. Okay. So if I go through that, you will find the lot of information here. The domain name is on the screen, it is utsa.edu, right? So from there you can see the registration of this UTSA's University of Texas, the complete address is there, the registered address with this domain name. And the administrative contact, who are the administrators are there, their phone number, their main ID is also there. Okay. So in this, you are finding this, by using this mail ID, you may change any one letter, like NASSOSG is the mail ID, right? Here you are having the N is capital, G is capital. in this mail ID. Correct? So instead of G is capital, the attacker may put G as small letter. Okay? And try to send a mail to all the employees in the network in UTSA. The things are okay, this guy is our administrator and coming from the UTSA.edu only. So what the end users try to do? They open that mail. In that mail, the malware is a small software, as we are saying, small code. So that will automatically open and start executing in the background. Okay, and it gives a lot of other information also. So in reconnaissance attack is basically try to find out the details of this, the UTS. So here, it knows the IP addresses, it knows the domain names and who are the admins are they, when it is started, whether it is active or not. So every information will be there. So there are 3 servers are there on UTS network. NS2, NS1, NS2 and NS3. 3 servers are there. 3 servers are running on that. So this is the basic concept of getting the reconnaissance. Right? Yeah. So let me just play a video for you so that it will be kind of. Let's listen to this. And explain all the techniques of your reconnaissance, how they are.
Time to get real, we're going to jump into common network attacks. And with common network attacks, we're going to focus on 3, which is technically really 4, which we'll see. But what it comes down to is they're here regarding threat actors. So let's kick it off. We've got 3 common network attacks that exist. Number 1 being the reconnaissance or the recon attack. And this is all about gathering information and learning about vulnerabilities that exist in the system. So from there, we can target those vulnerabilities with what's known as the access attacks. With an access attack, you're trying to take advantage of those vulnerabilities or weaknesses, and they could be in things like authentication or file transfer protocol, web services running on port 80, port 443. Even SSH has been known to have its vulnerabilities, and Cisco released SSH version 2 on a lot of their iOS boxes. DOS attacks, though, denial of service. Having a multi-million-dollar business is great, as long as people, which are the users and customers, can reach your network services and reach the web server, be able to transfer their money, make purchases, and literally be able to use your environment. Denial of service is all about having a disruption of network services. So let's jump in deep on these. We're going to go ahead and get into recon attacks first. And there's many different types of reconnaissance attacks that could occur. But where they really start with is like a storyline. We're going to have a threat actor perform some type of query of a target. And for that, it could be something as simple as a who is. So we can start by me going to research.domaintools.com, up there in my URL, and I'm going to just go to cisco.com as my whois lookup. I'm going to get more depth information on cisco.com. If I scroll down to the bottom here, we're going to be able to see that I get this whole whois record. Domain name is cisco.com, the registry domain, I get dates and times, I even get information regarding location and phone numbers, and even their email address. This gives me a huge amount of information regarding the company, and there's actually ways that I can get more information than this. So this would be my initial level 1 beginning step of reconnaissance for the company of Cisco.com. Now, continuing onwards, though, we can do something like a ping sweep of a targeted network. And there's tools that are readily available for things like a ping sweep. One of them being right here, for example. And there's a tool that you could use. And I just did a ping sweep on a local network, but I also went further than that. I did a port scan. And I pulled back multiple devices that were live and responded on the network with a ping sweep, along with different...
Yeah, this is another tool, that is the Angry IP Scanner. So this Angry IP Scanner is another tool. It is like, we have said, the attackers' tools to get the information of your target. So in this, they're giving the range on that particular network that, from this range to this range, how many systems are active and how many systems are inactive. So all the active systems will be identified with their IP addresses. So these are the targets for any of the attackers. The attackers, they try to attack any of these. If any of these, the systems, if they are having any vulnerabilities, they can get into this system. That means they are into the network. Once they get into the network, they try to communicate with other devices like with 3, 6, 13, 10, 11, and so on.
And ports that are currently open on those devices. From there, I can research these ports and services and try to see if any vulnerabilities exist. With that idea in mind, I can use vulnerability scanners to actually target them at those live IP addresses and see what comes back regarding applications, operating systems, service packs that all exist. Then finally, we can actually start running exploitation tools to take advantage of those vulnerabilities.
So you can experience with these tools. So as we discussed in the previous class, there are a lot of tools which help the attackers to attack. So you can try with the another tool, the NetScan tool. Can you browse on the browser now? Can you try this? The NetScanner tool. I think you are already experienced with this Nmap, right? Can you try this NetScan tool? So these tools basically used to identify what are the IP addresses are there in that network and their port numbers. So you find a lot of different NetScan tools are there, NetScan tools for network engineering purpose. So those tools are basically used by the attackers to identify the vulnerabilities of your source. The vulnerability of your target. Okay, and once they comes to know by using these tools, they can run this vulnerability scanner. The most famous or important one is your Nipper scanner. So this scanner finds what are the different vulnerabilities are there on the target, and then they try to run these exploitation tools. So in the exploitation tools, you will find the social engineering toolkit is there, or the important one is your Metasploit, which can generate the payload. By using these exploitation tools, the attackers can get complete control of your system. It may be server, it may be your network, it may be your the end devices. So these are the basic information gathering. We call this kind of category as your reconnaissance attack. Okay. And then the second one is your access control attack. Yeah, this is what we have just seen. So in this access control attack, that exploits the known vulnerabilities in the authentication services. So FTP service and your web services are required for your authentication. So the purpose of this type of attack, this access attack, is to gain the entry to your web accounts, your credential database, and other sensitive information. So threat actors use these access attacks on the network devices and your computers to retrieve the data, gain access, or to escalate the access privileges to administrative status or administrative nodes. So most of these access attacks are goes for your password attack and your spoofing attack is there. So in password attack, the threat actor attempts to discover the critical system passwords using the various methods that John Ripper tools to find out what are the different passwords are there on the log file on your the network server or your end devices. So these password attackers are very common and can be launched using variety of password cracking tools which we have seen in the previous lecture. Another one is your spoofing attack is there. So this spoofing attack is kind of your threat actor device attempt to pose as another device by just the falsifying the data. So common spoofing attacks that includes your IP spoofing, which we have seen when the address resolution table or the ARP protocol is used to maintain the address, the MAC addresses. In that case, there is a possibility of the attacker can gain the MAC addresses of the device within the network or IP addresses of your device if the attacker is outside the network. So this IP spoofing or your MAC spoofing or your DHCP spoofing, that comes under your spoofing attack. And other type of your spoofing attacks are your trust exploitation and port redirections, as we said. Once they gain access of this MAC address and your IP spoofing, if any data is going from your legitimate user to your server, suppose, then that traffic which going to the server, that traffic will be deviated by your attacker. Try to get the information. And this attack, we also say the man in the middle attack and the buffer overflow attacks. So in this trust exploitation, what it says, the trust exploitation attack is unauthorized privileges to gain the access of your system, so possibly compromising the target. Whereas your port redirection attack, that you can see this. The first one is port redirection, as we said, in the man in the middle attack. The attacker, they try to gain the information of the which ports are open on these routers. So then once those ports are identified by this threat attacker, then threat attacker can simply use that port to get into or connected to your device. So in port redirection attack, a threat actor uses a compromised system as a base for your attack against the other targets. So the example in this figure, if you see that the threat actor using the SSH service, the port number it is using the 22, which is the port number for your SSH. So to connect to a compromised host of your A in this network. So the host A is trusted by the host B in the network. So and therefore the threat actor can use the telnet port number 23 to access it. If 22 is closed and if 23 is open, then port number 23 can be used. So another type is your man in the middle attack. So what happens in the man in the middle attack? The actor is positioned in between two legitimate users or legitimate entities in order to read or modify the data that passes between these two parties, between the client and your server, sitting in between and trying to gain the access of these communication channel through their port. So which information is going and which information is receiving and what is there in that packet will be easily identified by the man in the middle, and they can do the the modification or deletion or any addition or new files will be generated. So this another one is your buffer overflow type. In this buffer overflow, as we said, when these packets are exchanged in between the devices, every intermediate device or your network devices, they try to decapsulate the header and check whether the packets are legitimate packets or not. I mean, to check it out, what is the source and what is the destination for them. So the threat actor exploits this buffer memory because based on their speed, whatever the incoming packets are there, they will be stored in the memory. So this buffer memory and the overwhelm it with the unexpected value. So this usually renders the system inoperable and creating the denial of service attack. So this are the different types of your attacks. One is trust one, trust exploitation, port redirection, man in the middle attack, and your buffer overflow attacks. So let us just see some access and social engineering attacks, and then we'll try to discuss them again. Let me just play this for you.
With access attacks, you've already gained your information, you've already done your recon, but now you're here to hit it. You're here to hit the box and have attacks that take place to manipulate data or even corrupt data or information. There's a lot that can come into play here. One of the first things we could talk about would be things like password attacks. And this tool, for example, known as THC Hydra, amazingly powerful tool for brute force password attacks.
The
You can
Hydra
target
GTK.
many different services, for example.
So this Hydra GTK or your John Ripper, which is the inbuilt tool, and Kali Linux, these are basically used to crack the passwords actually.
Cool. Telnet, FTP, HTTP, IMAP, email, POP3 email, Cisco authentication, Cisco enabled passwords. You name it, this tool is great for pen testing. And that's what it should really be used for, is penetration testing on a legal standpoint. So we've got password attack tools. We've got tools for spoofing. You can pretend to be anybody you want regarding MAC addresses using MAC address spoofing tools, as long as even pretending to be a DHCP server. We can exploit connections by using trust exploitations. We can redirect traffic to other targets. We use man in the middle beautifully, just via spoofing some MAC addresses and using DHCP. And of course, we can overwhelm targets and try to get data out of them by using buffer overflow attacks. There's so many different things out there. Social engineering is kind of like made this number 4, kind of just like slides in there. But social engineering allows us to take advantage of the human nature of individuals. Whether we're talking about pretexting, trying to confirm the identity of somebody by asking them, is this, Mark Jones? Oh, it is? Great. Now I've just learned that Mark Jones is at the phone number that I just called. We use things like phishing to disguise ourselves as being someone else. Also, we can do things such as spam, where we send garbage email to the hopes of getting someone to click. And if they click, we can then try to take advantage of them. One of the common things we talk about would be tailgating, where we have secure physical doors. And you walk in, being a threat actor, holding a cake in one hand and balloons in the other. You really think someone's going to slam the door in your face and say, well, you got to take out your ID card and scan it to get in? Or do you think they're going to hold the door open for you? That's the idea of tailgating, having a threat actor quickly follow through. Impersonation can be done as a physical individual, but also even in terms of the internet. So we did our first query regarding Cisco, and we got to see some info about Cisco and the domains that they own. Well, what if we wanted to create an email and pretend to be Cisco HR? Well, I can go to Google Domains here, and I can actually say, let's see what's available with the name of Cisco. And for the cost of about $12 a year, I believe, there we go, $12 a year, I can purchase ciscosystems.business. And then I can make an email. And this would be completely illegal and horrible. And the email would say, it's time to update your payroll. We need to reconfirm all direct deposit accounts. And I can literally have them click on a link. And the link would be ciscosystems.business. Instead of .com, it would be .business. And it would look really legit. And I would do my best to be social engineer extraordinaire. I would steal some email signatures to make it look even more professional. Have a picture of myself down at the bottom, like, hey, Happy, this is your HR person. But please click on this link, go to ciscosystems.business and upgrade your direct deposit information. And then the evil threat actor that you are would steal all those routing and account numbers and literally have their way with accounts. But that's the idea here when we talk about things like impersonation and social engineering. Can you get someone to trust in you? Can you get someone to click? Can you get them to believe in you using human nature?
So now just paying only $30 or $40, you will get the Cisco.com type or UTSA.edu type domain. And when you try to sending that mails through your domain, every user in the network that feels that it came from the legitimate, the organization only. So by claiming that, we may write that, I'm, Dr. Fred Martin at UTSA.com. By using that email, if we send that, your admission is closed. When you find that, the mail is, okay, Fred Martin at UTSA.edu. Why it has happened? So you immediately run up. or in that mail may write that if you want to discuss about this one, you can share your contact number or your mail ID so that we can communicate, we can connect to each other to discuss about that. So in that sense, the attackers try to find the vulnerability of human beings, right? That your admission is closed means everybody, anybody can think that why what happened, because panic. So in that panic mode, they may share their information. So that is your phishing type. Okay. Yeah. So this is all these kind of things comes under your social engineering. That is something by giving that quotations that it is important or it is urgent or it is something like that. So by giving these are different techniques which are used by the attackers to get the information from the user. So to go from the target or the victims. So for that, what they use, the tool they use is the domain names, the proper domain names by just paying some bucks. Correct? Yeah. So this comes under your social engineering type. So in social engineering toolkit, this was basically designed to help the white hat hackers and the other network security professionals. So this not for this is basically designed for white hat hackers. Reason: white hat hackers means they are officially hired by the organization and try to find out the vulnerabilities, how the users in that network react to that. So this it is a set of your the menu based tool. This is social engineering attack. So that help launch the social engineering attacks. So the enterprises must educate their users or their about the risk of social engineering and develop some strategies to validate the identities over the phone or via email or in person. So in the recommended social engineering, the protection practice is you can find here that never give your username or password credentials to anyone. That is the most important one for that is educating the every employee in the organization. Another one is never leave your username, password, credentials where they can easily be found, or never open emails from untrusted sources, or these are some protecting against your social engineering task. So never the release the work related information on social media, or never reuse work related passwords, or always lock or sign out your computers when you are unattended. So these are few things to educate all the users in the network to not get into the your social engineering attack. So then another type of your attack is your denial of service attack. So you'll see the denial of service attack, how it happens. Let us just play a video for you and then we'll try to discuss that.
What about those threat actors that just want to watch the world burn? Maybe this is part of another escalated attack. Maybe this is part of a big grandiose scheme. Or maybe literally this is a political act of just, we need to take down this target because we don't like what they're doing right now. Well, regardless of the agenda of a threat actor, denial of service or DDoS attack can be rather detrimental. A denial of service attack is an attack that's going to interrupt network services. This can stop users, it can stop devices, or even crash applications from being able to function. Now, there's two ways it usually goes about this. There's an overwhelming amount of traffic, which means an enormous amount of data at a high speed rate is hitting a target, whether that target is a user or it's a server or it's even a network intermediate device. That target is unable to handle the amount of data, so then it cannot respond to legitimate requests from legitimate users. Besides just an overwhelming amount of data hitting a target, a denial of service could also be where maliciously formatted packets are being created and are being sent at a target, and that target doesn't know how to handle that message. Because it doesn't know how to handle the message, it causes an error condition, and then that targeted device cannot, again, respond to legitimate requests. Now, we can change this denial of service attack to be a little bit different, and that's called a DDoS, which is a distributed denial of service. And this is where we have multiple sources of threat actors, all hitting a target at the same time. The common way this is done is using a botnet or a zombie. And a zombie is going to be an infected host. And this infected host is part of the overall collective that's being used by a threat actor to target a specific device, whether it's a user or a network device or an application. This is commonly seen on places like the dark web, where we can talk about the ability to rent a botnet full of zombies, and for a specific time, a specific amount of throughput, being able to hit a target.
So from here, you can easily get that. In this case also you can see this is the attacker before getting service. The service which is requested by this legitimate user in this scenario, if you see, before providing service to this user, your attacker is trying to send lot of packets to your web server. So your web server is busy to provide service to your attacker. But whereas your legitimate user is also trying to get this service, like it is a web server, so trying to access the web pages. But because of this server is busy to provide service to the attacker, the web page cannot be open for this user. So user thinks that server is busy with some other service, but actually server is attacked by the attacker. Whereas your distributed denial of service, the multiple users, they become as a group, the attackers become as a group and try to find one target and make that target busy, so that the target will not provide service to other users in the network. Right? So this is the distributed denial of service part. So in this you find the some of the components of your distributed denial of services that we'll try to check it out. In this, these are some components of your DDoS attack. One is zombies, as we saw in the video. Another one is your bots and botnet, the handler and the bot masters. So if threat actor can compromise many hosts, they can perform a distributed denial of service, as we saw in the previous slide. So the DDoS attack are similar in the internet to denial of service attack, except that the distributed denial of service attack increase in the magnitude because it originates from multiple the coordinated sources. So if any one device in this network, suppose the client or the attacker is there, if this attacker try to find some of the vulnerabilities of this node in the network, then using that network in that node information, your client can activate multiple nodes to send or make the target to busy. So this is called of your zombies, a group of compromised hosts. So these hosts run malicious code on a same target. So in this, you can see the attackers use many intermediate hosts. They call zombies to launch the attack. So these are some of the components of your distributed attacks to compromise many devices in the network. All they do the same kind of job. First, try to identify any one device vulnerability, enter into the network. So in this case, this is a device of your network, this client. So having some vulnerability. So your attacker is trying to get into this device first. So then your attacker become the client now, because attacker is having complete control of this device. Then this device is activating and try to find out any other devices are having vulnerability or not inside the network. If those devices are also having vulnerability, make those devices as compromised devices. Then all these devices try to send the packets, try to access request the service to the victim. So victim will be busy to provide services to these, but not to the authorized users. So these are some of the part of this. Let us try to play a video for how this Marybone attack will work. Let me just play it for you.
In this demonstration, I'm going to launch a distributed denial of service or DDoS attack against a web server. I'm going to do it using the Mirai botnet. The Mirai botnet was a DDoS attack that targeted Internet of Things devices, devices that had IP addresses on the internet that were not traditional computers or servers. They were things like web cameras or printers or routers, any type of device that had an IP address that used a default username and password like admin. Now, in this DDoS attack, I'm going to use a safe version of the Mirai botnet. Now, it's safe because it's not really spreading malware and exploiting machines. The scripts that were written were designed to work in a controlled lab environment or classroom environment. So we call this the Safe Mirai Botnet DDoS attack. Now, how it's going to work is I'm at my PC and I'm connected to a switch, and I have Raspberry Pis also connected to the switch. We're going to use Raspberry Pi for the target web server, as well as 4 Raspberry Pi nodes that will make up the botnet. Now, this botnet will be controlled by the attacking device, which is also a Raspberry Pi. Now, the attacking device will have a web browser-based interface running a Node.js server. And you can see it right here. I have an SSH PuTTY connection to the attacker Raspberry Pi, and I've started the Node server. So you can see here I've got this server interface. Now, all of the other devices, these other nodes, are also Raspberry Pis. So let's take a look now. If I open up my browser, if you want to know what this looks like in my lab, I have a photograph of it, and you can see here that I have 6 Raspberry Pis. This is the attacker Pi. This is the target web server, and these are the 4 nodes. They're all connected to a switch, and then this blue cable runs to my Windows 10 PC. So the attacking Raspberry Pi has started. So what I can do is open up my web browser and look at the browser-based interface. And you can see here it is, the Safe Mirai Control Panel web browser interface. And I'll start a scan and scan the network to see if there are some vulnerable nodes, which in this case are those Raspberry Pi node machines. And we'll see if it can find those nodes and log into the nodes because they're using the default username and password of admin. The attacking Raspberry Pi has found some machines. It's found 1.5, 1.6, looks here like it's found added node 1.4. And we should see some nodes get added shortly. You can see it's added node 1.4, it found node 1.6, found node 1.7, and I'll stop the scan and start it one more time to see if we can find host 5 as well. There's host 5. Okay, it added 1.5 to the list. So now I'll stop the scan, and there are the 4 nodes with default username admin and password admin. And you can see that it's targeting port 23, which is a telnet server. The target web server is right here. You can see it here. It's running a simple Python web server. And I'm also going to open up a second PuTTY connection to this web server, the target, and run a TCP dump so we can see packets being captured. So I'm going to run this TCP dump here, and then I'll put in the IP address of the target web server. And the port number, which happens to be 8000, that it's the web server is running on, and we're going to send 1 million packets to it. Now, the web server's web page looks like this. So the target web server, it has this web page with a graphic here about the Internet of Things, And in Firefox, I'm going to open up a fresh window, delete this, and what I'll do is I'll clean out my cache, and we'll see how long it takes for, once the attack is started, for the server to respond. So here we go, got a fresh